Good morning, people. My name is Jamais Cascio. I am a futurist from San Francisco, California. And what a futurist means is that I spend my time thinking about the consequences of the decisions that we make. I spend my time thinking about what happens if, what happens when. I don't make predictions. My job isn't to tell you what will happen. My job is to try to illuminate what might happen, to provoke you a bit about possibilities that you may not have thought about. There's so much happening in the world that we could talk about. 20 minutes is like a tenth of the time that I really need. So you have to forgive my kind of truncated version of this. I could talk about biotechnology. I could talk about what's happening in the world of energy. But what I'm going to talk about today for the next 20 minutes, I like to think of as asteroids. Think of as these big, massive changes that are coming to our world, to our societies, that are going to be transformative and are going to make our lives very, very different. Come on. There we go. Asteroids are interesting, big, scary. We know where most of them are, the real world asteroids. We know where most of them are. We're keeping a good track of them. Occasionally we get surprised. And the same thing with these asteroids, these metaphorical asteroids I'm talking about today. We recognize a lot of them. Some of them are going to be really surprising with how they affect us. The first is climate. Regardless of what you are doing, whether you are media, whether you are industry, whether you are government, whatever you are doing, climate is going to affect what you do and how you live going forward. There is no escape from it. Climate change is real, it's dangerous, and it's getting worse much faster than we thought. We're seeing storms, we're seeing drought, and where I'm from in California, we saw massive wildfires this past summer. Wildfires where I live about 200 kilometers away from where the fires were centered. I still had to wear a face mask to be able to go outside and breathe and be healthy. But we're also going to be seeing refugees. If you think that the issues around refugees in the world are difficult today, they're going to be far more damaging, far more politically disruptive in the decades to come. And we will see war because of climate. Now, for those of you who are in the media, who are going to be writing about and speaking about these issues, this slide is probably the most important one for you to look at. This is showing what scientists call hysteresis, but is better just to call lag. The time between action and consequence. Turns out there's about 40 to 50 years because of the complexities of the ocean atmosphere system and how the planet works, about 40 to 50 years of lag between what we do, putting carbon into the atmosphere, and the results. What that means is the warming we're experiencing today is actually from carbon we put into the atmosphere up until the 1980s. What that also means, and here's the politically difficult and absolutely critical point, it means that whatever we do to push back against climate change, whatever we do to reduce carbon globally, we won't see the results of that. We won't see the benefits for a generation. So think of that not in terms of the environment, although that's important, but in terms of the politics. How do you convince people to change their lives if you know they're not going to see any improvement for a generation? That is going to be one of the big issues, one of the big asteroids we're facing. Brittle systems, the institutions and rules that we come up with to govern these kinds of problems, to respond to these kinds of problems. This is an image of one of the ways to essentially 3D fabricate a firearm. There are ways to use a $500 3D printer to print out a gun. When these designs came out last year, 2 years ago, every single gun control law in the world became obsolete. These are the changes we're facing because the rules that we have made in the 20th century and before increasingly no longer apply. Whether we're talking about privacy, whether we're talking about racism and tribalism. This is a picture that I took in Switzerland, of all places, a few years ago. A political party trying to push out the black sheep. The institutions, the governing institutions, the rules that we have made about how the world works, these are no longer working well for us. They don't know how to deal with the kinds of global issues that we are facing. Income inequality will be yet another driver, because we have to recognize that when you, as the old saying goes, when you make peaceful revolution impossible, you make violent revolution inevitable. And recognizing that some of our old problems still remain. This was an alert sent out to people on their mobile phones in Hawaii last year. Terrifying. It was an accident. They didn't mean to send it out, but it's the message that would be sent out if there was a North Korean missile attack. And these messages could be sent out anywhere in the world. Nuclear weapons remain a fundamental threat. Artificial intelligence. That, by the way, that was can I go back? Yeah. That was a delivery robot. That actually is my front yard. A delivery robot going by my front yard in suburban California. It's slow, it's small, but it's a sign. It's an indicator of what's to come. And we have artificial intelligence in our phones, we have artificial intelligence in our homes, and it's not just these things that learn how to understand what we say. These are systems that are actually able to do some things better than people can. Google has developed AI that's able to diagnose breast cancer better than any human doctor. We're seeing that across a spectrum of medical issues, where AI able to develop ways to do things better than we can. And here's the really important factor: we don't know how. As artificial intelligence, neural networks and like become more complex, they get harder and harder for us with our human brains to understand how they come up with their answers. And as we go forward, as these become more powerful, as these become more useful, we're going to be facing plenty of situations where we are relying on artificial intelligence to do things and we don't know why. And that's going to be in our cars. I mean, already if you have a Tesla, and there are lots of Teslas around here I've noticed, you have an artificial intelligence in your car. In fact, as we go forward over the next couple of decades, there will be a race between cars and phones as to which is going to be the most important, most powerful artificial intelligence in your life. And cars will make decisions, and you won't always know why it decided to change lanes just then, or to slow down, or to speed up. Because it's dealing with gigabytes of data, it's dealing with neural networks and sharing data and learning across all of the network of cars, and it's not sharing it with you. These asteroids are going to be really disruptive. But the last one here I'm going to go into is probably the most critical for media and one of the most difficult to wrestle with. Manipulation of reality. So this is a nice gentleman here. The boundary between reality and deception has become dangerously thin. Increasingly, our tools allow us to create falsehoods that are indistinguishable from reality. I know this for certain because the person shown here is not real. His face is entirely computer generated, randomly, from a neural network system. In fact, it was generated over the course of, it took less than 1 second to generate a face like that. There's a website you can go to yourself. It's called thispersondoesnotexist.com. Thispersondoesnotexist.com, and it will generate, every time you hit refresh, it'll give you a new face. About 2/3 of the faces that it comes up with today are very believable, like the ones I'm showing you here. Most of the rest have some little weirdness that just, you may not recognize at first why it looks strange, but it looks strange. It turns out it's like maybe it has different earrings on each ear, or the eyes are slightly off center. But we're doing this right now with still images. Soon we'll be able to do this with video, making a video of a person indistinguishable from reality. There's something called deepfakes that Daniel Funk from the Poynter Institute will be talking about tomorrow, so I don't want to step on him too much. But deepfakes are a way of taking an existing video of a person and layering someone else's face onto it. When done with artificial intelligence and neural networks, it creates a very believable video of somebody doing something or saying something that they never did or never said. And you can see there's actually a couple of different ways of doing it. The one that's where you see a little bit of animation, the guy moving his mouth and making Vladimir Putin say things. It's something developed at Stanford University called Face to Face. We are coming up with these really easy ways of manipulating reality. And there are all of the ways we're manipulating reality through our social networks, whether we're sending out tweets or whether we're using Facebook or whether we're using Reddit and people are buying votes on Reddit, a big social network where things are brought up to the front page through votes by millions of people. You can buy votes to get stuff bubbled up to the front page to get more attention. Or maybe it's this kind of guerrilla, this kind of personal deception where people lie to Facebook, give the wrong birthday, give the wrong middle name so that they pollute the data about themselves. And Facebook is easy to manipulate. I put up a picture that was from when I was much younger, and I actually I changed the date so it was the correct date of when I took that picture. And a couple of years ago, Facebook told me they wanted to show me a picture that I posted 25 years ago. Facebook wasn't around 25 years ago. There's no way I could have posted that. These systems are easy to manipulate. This is beyond propaganda. This isn't just making stuff up. This is a manipulation of how we perceive reality. Politically, the goal isn't to make a citizen believe something that's not true. Not trying to make you believe an untruth. It's trying to make you disbelieve truth. The idea isn't to try to make you believe a lie. It's try to make you doubt what's real, to doubt what's true. And these tools for creating new realities are becoming more powerful really quickly, really swiftly, to a point where a teenager with a next generation phone will be able to do things that would astound governments of 10 years ago. What do we do about it? Well, one of the most important tools we have is our mobile phones. Somebody's mobile phone right there. Because they allow us to capture images. And when you have multiple people in one space, everyone here in this room with their own different cameras, own different phones taking pictures, you get multiple perspectives, and it's very hard to manipulate reality when you have a diversity of perspectives on the event or on what's being said. In the United States, it's become very common for whenever there's any kind of police activity that there will be people there with their phones recording. Not because they think the police are going to do something bad, but because there's a possibility. Or what we've seen happen, unfortunately, is the police will claim that the criminal or the person who's been accused of a crime has done something bad. But now we have the proof that no, this is actually what happened. We have multiple people standing around taking different video. This is something that happened in California a few years ago at the University of California in Davis. It's basically a small town. People were protesting, students were protesting, and the university sent out police officers to go and use tear gas, pepper spray, on the line of kids. And knowing that in the past, when these kinds of things happened, the administration would kind of claim that no, it wasn't really that bad. You had dozens of people out there with their cameras from different perspectives. And this is a video you can find on YouTube where somebody took 4 of the different perspectives on what happened, synchronized them, lined them up so you can see from 4 different perspectives, 4 different points of view as to what happens when that cop walked up and started spraying pepper spray in the faces of teenagers. Future historians will see the mobile phone being to the 21st century what the AK-47 was to the 20th. An icon and a tool of revolution. Something that is powerful and gives power to individuals in a way that is very difficult for governments to control. And we may look on this, historians may look on this calmly and say, well, that was very much like what happened with the weapons in the 20th century. Autocratic governments know this already. Think about what happens as soon as there is a protest or some kind of uprising in countries around the world, the mobile phone network gets shut down. Not because they don't want you calling your mom and saying you're okay, because they don't want you sharing the pictures. The mobile phone is a revolutionary tool. And we think about the mobile phone and we say, well, people are just taking selfies. Selfies are really powerful because you think for a second, what is a selfie but self-documentation? I am taking a picture of myself and I can prove that I am here at this time. I am using my phone to take a picture of myself because I know that I can now document my location and my activity. And when people are taking selfies, when people are taking pictures of the stuff around them, what they're doing is they're creating a firm version of reality, their own version of reality that they can use to push back when somebody, a government, a company, some institution of power tries to tell them that they're wrong, that reality is different. And it's not just going to be mobile phones. This is something called Snapchat Spectacles. Snapchat is a phone app, but they came up last year with these glasses with an embedded camera. So you can take a picture just by looking at it and tapping a button on your phone, and it'll go right to your Snapchat. Now, they weren't very successful, but my guess is because they're really ugly. But think about what this means. Very soon we will be in a world where any pair of glasses can potentially have a camera on it. Any pair of glasses, anything that you're wearing, a brooch, your clothing might have embedded cameras. Not to spy on other people necessarily, but to document yourselves, to document your life. Asteroids. There is a particular example in Earth's history of an asteroid causing a big change, and that was what's known as the KT event, basically the big asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs something like 65 million years ago. It was kind of a big deal. Now, I've had the good fortune of being able to travel around and see different fossils of dinosaurs. You know, I, like a lot of kids, I was really into dinosaurs when I was young, and I never quite got over it. So I got to go to see the dinosaur digs in Colorado and in Berkeley and the fossils in Berlin. There's one fossil in particular that stands out to me, that sticks with me, that's critical. This was a creature known as Archaeopteryx. It was a bird and a dinosaur at the same time. It was the dinosaur progenitor to birds. All birds that are alive today are dinosaurs. Because what happened when that big asteroid hit the Earth wasn't that everything died out and we had to start all over again, is that some things adapted. Some creatures adapted. And so when you look around and you see birds, what you're seeing are the successful adaptations over hundreds of millions of years of creatures that were able to withstand one of the most devastating impacts in the planet's history. Withstand it, survive, and as they adapted, thrive. And that is what we're looking for today with how we respond to these kinds of metaphorical asteroids. How can we thrive? How can we adapt? What are the choices that we're going to be forced to make? What are the choices that we might want to make as we deal with things like climate disruption and AI and manipulations of reality? What can we do to adapt ourselves and our societies? As we move forward, as these developments continue to evolve, as our institutions continue to fail to withstand them, to respond to them, we're going to be faced with that challenge. How do we make this happen? How do we evolve as a society, as a planet, to deal with these incoming asteroids? I don't know about you, but I actually have a bit of confidence. Despite all of this, I tend to be optimistic that the human race, human civilization, will be able to grapple with these problems successfully. It will be painful. It will be a long process. It will be difficult. But it's not impossible. The challenge that we face is creating a new world as the asteroids of transformation fall all around us. Thank you very much.